Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In our video today, we are going to add the next 20 creature cards to our Momir Vig Cube with converted mana costs of 4. What's up, MTG That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Here we are again with another installment of our Momir Vig Cube series. Now, if you are unfamiliar with what we're trying to do with this cube, you can look in the description below and click on MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig variant. Additionally, you can click on the link to Cube Cobra and see all of the cards in the cube as it stands right now. So let's get to it. These are the next 20 creature cards to be added to our cube with converted mana costs of 4. The first one is Momir Revolutionary. It's a 2/2 that reads, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Momir Revolutionary. So pretty much this is just going to stay on the battlefield, and it's just going to chump block walkers for days and days and weeks. All right, creature number 2 is going to be Old School Clone. You may have Clone enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Now, the only way this one might hose you is if for some reason the battlefield is empty when Clone hits. Because if Clone hits the battlefield and there's no other creatures there, well, it's going straight to the graveyard, never to be seen again. Next up, we have Crocodile of the Crossing, a 5/4 hasty green creature. And when it ETBs, we put a -1/-1 counter on target creature we control. That's absolutely fine, because to summon to the battlefield for an investment of 4 mana, a 5/4 creature that can attack right away, well, we'll take that every single day of the week, BC, and 2 times on Friday Night Magic. All right, creature number 4, we have the Custody Soulbinders. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of other creatures on the battlefield. So if everyone is casting and summoning their creature spells on curve, when this ETBs, it's going to be a biggin. We can tap 2 and a white, and we can remove a +1/+1 counter from Custody Soulbinders to create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. This may be, if not the most valuable 4-drop, it's going to be definitely one of the most valuable ones, because this is going to come down as a massive creature, which can deal some serious damage right away by attacking the turn after it comes into play, unless we have a haste enabler on our side of the battlefield. Additionally, in a format where we can only summon 1 creature per turn, any creatures that can give us additional creatures in order to flood the battlefield should be prioritized at all costs. We reduce the power and toughness of the Soulbinders here by 1 each, just to create a 1/1 flying spirit. Make sure you're packing planes in that basic land deck, MTGBC, so that you can take advantage of this Human Cleric's activated ability. All right, creature card 5, as we hit the 1/4 mark of this video, we have Cyclops Gladiator. It's a 4/4 that whenever it attacks, we may have it deal damage equal to its power to target creature defending player controls. If we do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to Cyclops Gladiator. Of course, this card is old enough to predate the fight mechanic, which basically this is fight. It just hasn't been keyworded yet. So for the purposes of this deck, for the purposes of our cube, Cyclops Gladiator reads, whenever it attacks, you may have it fight target creature defending player controls. And in a format where there are no instant and sorcery spells, and where removal is very, very limited, Cyclops Gladiator could come down and really do some damage to the creatures under our opponent's control. Next, CMC 4, we have the Cytoplast Rootkin. It has Graft 4, which means it's going to come into play with 4 +1/+1 counters on it, and whenever another creature comes into play, we may move a +1/+1 counter on it from the Cytoplast Rootkin onto that creature. And when Cytoplast Rootkin comes into play, we can also put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature we control that has a +1/+1 counter on it. Woven throughout this cube are many cards that can grant these +1/+1 counters. So it's one of the themes that's underlying within this Momir Vig Cube. And even if we don't get any of those other creatures, well, Cytoplast Rootkin has a built-in ability that lets us pay 2 to move a +1/+1 counter from target creature we control onto Cytoplast Rootkin. So we really want to benefit by making sure we can get maybe a little bit of luck and get some additional +1/+1 counters on this elemental mutant so that we can send it off into combat and really start to do some damage. All right, we had Clone as creature number 2. Well, this one might be Clone with some PEDs. This is creature number 7, and it's Dax Duplicate. It's going to come into play as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, just like Clone, for the same investment of mana, except it has haste and the dethrone mechanic, which means whenever it attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, it's going to get a +1/+1 counter on it. Boy, we can really see the upping of power level from basic Clone to Dax Duplicate. All right, next up, ooh, baby, we got a big one here at the 4 spot. We have Daimogoth Titan. It's an 11/10 demon. Whenever it attacks or blocks, we sacrifice a creature. 11/10, that all we have to do to send it into combat is to sacrifice another creature. If any chance we can give this any kind of evasion, trample, flying, protection, a landwalk, it's only going to take a couple of swings to knock an opponent out of a game, particularly when that opponent is beginning the game with 24 life. And I understand that 11/11 is 22, but I'm just thinking that there's already going to be some combat shenanigans happening before this demon hits the battlefield. All right, number 9, we have Dagatar the Adamant. Has Vigilance. It comes into play with 4 +1/+1 counters on it, and we can pay 1 in any combination of 2 Golgari mana to move a +1/+1 counter from target creature onto a second target creature. So make sure you're packing those swamps, make sure you're packing those forests, because pay attention to what that clause says. It says move a +1/+1 counter from target creature onto a second one. They don't even have to be creatures we control. We can just straight gank +1/+1 counters from our opponent's creatures and put them onto our own. Dagatar the Adamant can cause all kinds of battlefield shenanigans. Speaking of battlefield shenanigans, creature number 10 of this installment, oh baby, Desecration Demon, a 6/6 flyer that at the beginning of each combat, any opponent may sacrifice a creature, and if a player does, we tap Desecration Demon and put a +1/+1 counter on it. So yes, in a format where you can only summon 1 creature per turn, and yes, Desecration Demon can continuously get tapped down, we're going to win that war of attrition, because as they're sacrificing a creature every turn, we're still summoning creatures of our own, and no opponent is going to want to have this behemoth come at them in combat. All right, moving on to the second half of this installment, we have Domesticated Hydra. It's a 3/3 with the monstrous mechanic. This time it's Monstrous X. If this creature is not already monstrous, put X +1/+1 counters on it, and then it becomes monstrous. And as an additional bonus, if it gains monstrosity, it gains trample. So this is a great card to come down on your 4 spot, and maybe we wait a little while into the game, and then we put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it and give it trample. Again, triple green. Make sure you're bringing those forests, MTGBC. All right, creature card number 12, we have Dragon Loft Idol, a 3/3 gargoyle that as long as we control a dragon, Dragon Loft Idol gets +1/+1 flying and trample. Yes, there are dragons flying all around the Momir Vig Cube, and if you are lucky enough to have one of those and this creature into play, well, congratulations, because you summoned a 4/4 flying trampler for the investment of just 4 mana. Next creature card we have, and it is another +1/+1 synergizing creature. That is Dragon Scale General, 3 and a white. Well, that's meaningless because all of the cards in this segment are all CMC4. So just edit that part out of your heads there, MTGBC. It's a 2/3 human warrior. At the beginning of our end step, we get to bolster X. where X is the number of tapped creatures we control. So that means that we can choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures we control, and then put X +1/+1 counters on it. So with some combat math and making sure that we know the ins and outs of what our opponent's creatures can do, there is the potential for Dragon Scale General to really get out of control, particularly if we have creatures that can sustain life and not end up dying if we can send them into combat. All right, next creature up, we have Droning Bureaucrats, a 1/4 human advisor. We can pay X, and that's just colorless X, so any lands will do it here, BC. We can tap Droning Bureaucrats, and each creature with converted mana cost X cannot attack or block this turn. We can use this for defensive purposes, or we can use this for offensive purposes. It's a great inclusion into the cube because of its versatility, creating all kinds of words during this video. All right, creature card number 15 as we hit the 3/4 mark of this video, and that's going to be Druid's Familiar. 2/2 bear with the Soul Bonds mechanic. We may pair this creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as we control both of them, and as long as this bear is paired with another creature, each of those creatures get +2/+2. How about that for some buffering from Avacyn Restored? All right, creature number 16, we have Dungeon Geists, a 3/3 flyer that when it ETBs, we tap target creature an opponent controls, and that creature does not untap during its controller's untap step for as long as we control Dungeon Geists. So for the purposes of a variant where there is very little creature interaction, Dungeon Geists can be looked at as removing pretty much from the battlefield any troublesome or problematic creatures. Next up, we have Elusive Tormentor, a 4/4 vampire wizard. We can pay 1, discard a card to transform Elusive Tormentor into Insidious Mist, an hexproof, indestructible 0/1 that can't block or can't be blocked. And whenever it attacks and isn't blocked, of course that will be every time because it can't be blocked, we may pay 2 and a black, and if we do, we can transform it. So this gives us the ability to really play with our opponent's creatures and board states, because they'll never know. As long as we have the mana needed, the one colorless won't be a problem, but you got to make sure you got that black mana, BC. We can really run circles around our opponents in combat and on defense. All right, 3 creatures to go. The next one we have is Emberwild Captain, a 4/2 Djinn pirate. When it ETBs, we become the monarch. Whenever an opponent attacks us while we're the monarch, Emberwild Captain deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand. So that damage is going to come straight at their life total, and in a format where combat is generally the only way in which to win, having Emberwild Captain in play can really act as a deterrent to our opponents, because who wants to be taking direct damage to their face each time they send a tapped creature our way. Creature number 19, we have the Embodiment of Fury. It's a 4/3 trampler that reads, land creatures we control have trample. So why is that going to be a good ability? Well, I'm glad you asked that, MTGBC, because Embodiment of Fury has the landfall mechanic. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we may have target land we control become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until end of turn. It is still a land. Again, in a game variant where we're only summoning 1 creature to the battlefield per turn, any creature that can create additional creatures to pressure our opponents is prioritized, and Embodiment of Fury, well, it checks those boxes. All right, and creature number 20, with a lot of what we said about Embodiment of Fury still fresh in our minds, let me introduce to you our last creature for the day, Emeria Angel, a 3/3 flyer with the landfall mechanic. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we may create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. We play a land pretty much every single turn because that's all we're drawing from the top of our library. Yes, we need to discard one of those lands in order to summon a creature, but it seems likely that we're going to be able to play a lot of lands, and to be able to create a 1/1 creature with evasion, with it having flying, well, we're going to take that every single day of the week and 2 times on Friday Night Magic. And there we have it, MTGBC. the next 20 cards to enter into our Momir Vig Cube with a mana value of 4. Let me know your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.